What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 2. If you are joining us, you are still with us after our debut episode last week. We very much appreciate it. I'm your host on the North End Podcast, Zach Graham, joined, as always, by my co-host, not just my good buddy, on record as my best friend. It's Ian Michaud. E, how you doing on this Monday, August 22nd, a rainy one in Austin, Texas?
Indeed, the city is crying for our first podcast ever after a loss.
Oh, gosh.
Had to get it out of the way, I suppose, at some point in time.
Yeah.
But very happy to be back. Very happy to hear from the people who tuned in for the first episode. Great feedback. Really appreciate all of it. And just looking forward to keeping this thing rolling.
Yeah, man. Like we said last time, you know, our kind of vision, for lack of a better term, with this podcast, this project, is just to, you know, obviously be able to get our thoughts on our favorite team, Austin FC, out there into the universe, but also hear from some other voices, particularly, you know, when we were discussing this over the last couple months, is the people that we've met in the North End in section 123, you know, kind of have those friends on, get their perspectives on the team and games and what's going on in the Austin FC universe. Maybe some of our buddies, you know, on here, and we'll just see how it goes. I think we're both excited to continue working on this, and you know, just trying to grow and have fun with it. So, you know, you mentioned first loss, our first podcast after an Austin FC loss.
Yeah.
Hopefully we haven't cursed the team, right? Because the schedule is certainly not getting easier, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Obviously, coming off Saturday night's loss up at Allianz Field against Minnesota United. So let's go ahead and dive into it, because I think there's a lot, even though it was just a 2-1 game. And I guess we should shout out our good buddy Guillermo, who's kind of in our inner circle, I guess we could say, right? In the group chat that all of kind of our boys are in. And I will shout out Guillermo too. He's the cook of our group, and fed us well on Saturday night, which we needed some of that, just some comfort food, right? After how that game went. Let's get into it. And the last, Guillermo predicted a 2-1 loss. So we'll hear from him, I think, in the upcoming weeks. We'll have our buddy Guillermo on. He is, just to warn anybody who may stick with us till then, he is a hater. He is by far the I don't know if I can even call him realistic at this point, because we're doing so well this season, but specifically at the beginning of the season, Guillermo was poo-pooing all of my positivity and saying we're going to make the playoffs, etc. So yeah, props to him. Called the 2-1 loss, but let's get into it, break it down a little bit. First 20 minutes or so of this game, I felt like we were really on the back foot. I was surprised to see that at the end of the match, Austin FC had 64% of the possession. It did not feel that way to start the game. It must have been in the second half. And I think just the way the game went, I never really felt like we would be anywhere close to that amount of possession. That feels like it's something we would have seen last year, right? Like you control the ball, 64% of possession, but you lose 2-1. Did that number surprise you at all?
It did. Absolutely. Nothing going the first, 25 minutes for us? We didn't, nothing going.
Yeah. I mean, it was almost like the whole first half, right?
Yeah, it was. I guess that's being gracious, counting that Danny Pereira left-footed strike.
Yeah. Strike might be putting it nicely.
Yeah, made it back there. That number does surprise me. And that first half was tough. I think your statement on being on the back heels is correct. The fatigue as well. It seemed sudden. I don't know. And then they were talking about the temperature up there, and I could not figure out how that could be impacting us that negatively.
Yeah.
But yeah, another slow start. Again, at some point in time, being the cardiac kids and always having to come back, and especially when you're a team that relies so heavily on the majesty of one player to get things going. It was tough, and I passive in the first half as well.
Yeah, I agree. What was not passive was Ethan Finley in the box. Second straight game taking down an opponent in the box, conceding the PK, which Emiliano Rigoni buries.
What a
but
player.
Credit to, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, first of all, I guess let's go ahead and just talk about this. I think in most people's power rankings, if you will, for MVP candidates, I think anybody paying attention right now, even outside of like our Austin FC bubble here, has Driussi number one. Leading the Golden Boot race, of course, now with 18 goals. We'll get to his goal in this game, adding to his total. I believe 7 assists. So he's got 25 goal contributions in 26 matches. You're just not going to find a guy with that kind of statistical output in the league this year. But what Emiliano Rigoni has been doing, particularly over, I guess they've played 26 games now as well, I think, over the last 13 or 14. Like Minnesota had a slow start. When we saw them at Q2 in April, they were not playing as well as they have been now. We talked about on the last podcast, right? They had only lost one of their last 9 matches.
Yeah.
And it's on the back of him. Like he is there, Driussi. I think both of us on Saturday, maybe me in the first half, you in the second, said, can you imagine a midfield where you could pair these two Argentinians together?
No, he was a treat to watch.
Yeah, it was fun.
Everything he does is just clean. That left foot, his passes are crisp. He was really fun to watch. Glad that I got to, have I don't think I made the first season when they came down.
To be honest, I don't remember. I know you missed the SKC finale last year, but the other ones I can't remember. Again, it was easier, I think, emotionally for you and I to miss a game last year than this year, right? When we're competing.
Absolutely.
And of course, haven't missed a game yet this year. We'll knock on wood that we can finish out the regular season and the playoffs. But yeah, that battle, I think, between Driussi and Reynoso was something that I was looking forward to. Like you said, we both enjoyed watching Reynoso. And I think even despite Driussi turning his ankle, I think around the 35th, 36th minute, which you and I were sitting there, and my initial reaction with him grabbing the back of his ankle was like, fuck, Achilles. It's not the first time he's gone down and scared me like that this year, and I know that I'm probably not the only one that feels that way when he goes down. But I don't know why, but I always fear the worst. Like you were a little bit more timid, like you were like I think he's fine.
That pain looked a little I don't know, an Achilles tear. He would have been
just like the non-contact like element of it is what scared me the most.
Always, absolutely. I don't know. Every time he goes down, it's a quick little heart skip.
Yeah, I mean, you hear everybody in the stadium. If it's at home, the collective breath is being held. But I guess to kind of put a cap on the conversation about the showdown between those two players, I thought Reynoso got the better of it this time around.
Fantastic.
Yeah, even before the Driussi injury, which I think was bothering him the rest of the game.
I agree.
Reynoso, and again, going back to this PK, takes it, buries it in the right side. And you and I were discussing Brad Stuver. We talked about him last time, obviously, after Johnny Russell scored his PK at Q2, sending Stuver to 4 for 9 on his career defending penalty kicks. Couldn't stop Reynoso. What's that?
I didn't know that number.
Yeah, so even before that, right? He was 4 for 8. And 2 of those stops, I believe, have been against Chicharito in his career. So even at 40%, that's a great number
too.
Yeah. So Reyno, but I guess I'll turn it over to you. We both watched this replay, obviously live, and then after the game, Stuver almost got there.
For sure, he was on it. He correct me if I'm wrong, but he hit it right.
I do think he got a touch on it.
Yeah.
It looked like he hesitated a little bit. Like he waited just a beat too long to choose, is what it looked like to me. And he chose right.
Yeah, he was right there. Little less pace in the ball. I don't know, anything half of a millisecond, one way or the other. Thus is the game. I want to get your opinion on how do you classify this? Is this a good loss? Is this like, like this is a team that is super hot. They have a fantastic player. We're 1-1 and we have a catastrophic turnover. And I can't figure out if this was a good loss. I feel like, when we walk away from the queue and we had been down 3-1 and in no particular game, we come back and we get a point. Like, all right, well, at least we salvaged.
Right.
I don't know how to feel about this game. Obviously a great team. I'm not going to take anything away from them. We did not deserve to win.
Sure.
By any stretch of the imagination.
We said that after the game, right? Minnesota they deserved the 3 points.
They deserved to win the game for sure. We were sleepwalking the first half.
Yeah.
White Walkers just terrible. I don't know. But what is it is it a good loss? Is it we can walk away with something?
I think I'm going to come up with this term right now.
Oh, okay. Can we?
I think I will classify it as a system loss, because the system that we run, playing out of the back, right, from Coach Wolf, we're going to give up goals. Maybe not as ugly as that, but we've seen it time and time again, right? And we saw it a lot more frequently last year. But I want to say, and I don't think I can pull one off the top of my head from this season, but I feel like there's been at least 2 others this year where we've been playing out of the back and we've given, I want to say early in the year, maybe the Seattle goal was Stuver passing it right to them.
I think we did take a brief hiatus from our catastrophic turnovers, but early on in the season, they definitely stick out. I don't have anything right off the top of my head, but I know Brad one time passed the ball directly to the other team who then just scored on us. I know that for a fact. That one is burned into the memory. I can't figure out if it's a good loss or what it is. It's hard game success, in my opinion.
It was interesting because it looked like to me in the first half, Minnesota was really sitting back when our center backs had the ball. They really wanted to make Julio, and we've seen Julio Cascante over the last couple games, especially, make some runs. We in the stands, and we were talking about Johan Romagna with this last year a lot. We would say, Romagna solo mission.
Those were the days.
Yeah, and I think most people, especially if you were watching the club last year, what we're talking about when we say Romagna solo mission. Like, we're down 1 or 2 goals. They give him space and he takes it. And I think Julio's been, and I think he's probably been instructed to do that. I don't think he's just taking that upon himself. Like, I have to make something happen now.
Interesting.
But yeah, the Minnesota was not pressing. And then it seemed like situationally they were pressing, not so much like, with us in that high press, we'll send Maxi, we'll send Seba after any back pass, right? They're sprinting towards that, trying to put the pressure on. And I honestly would have to go back and look. I should have taken notes during the game on this, because I did notice that there was a difference. Like, I don't know if it was like dead balls, like goal kicks that they were pressuring, or it was turnovers, but it seemed like they had some sort of trigger in their defense on when to pressure. And we'll get to that second half mistake by Julio, but whatever it was triggered on that play to be sure.
That guy came sprinting.
Yep.
He came flying.
Well, before we get to the Fragapane goal, extra time, we'll shout out our buddy Rob, aka Schnorb Jones, was watching the game with us on Saturday, and I think you and I were in unison at the 45-minute mark saying, "Ref, 1 minute. Get us to the half. Get us to I didn't feel like I wanted the guys to be out there any longer than they had to be in the first half. And I kind of wanted to regroup, come back out in the second half and try to equalize. The officials decide 4 minutes. And in the 47th minute, Nick Lima, right side of the box, kind of takes a bit of a wild touch.
Yeah.
Almost
maybe
goes
an
out of bounds.
Intentional step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he gets to it.
Yes, he does.
And I don't remember the defender's name, so I apologize for that. But defender slides in as Nick Lima's kind of getting this late cross in into the 6-yard box, and defender slides with his hand up, ball catches his hand, PK is awarded, and Driussi bangs home his 18th league leading, Golden Boot leading 18th goal of the season. So we love to see that, especially in a week where Jesus Ferreira scored again for Dallas. He's on 14 goals now. Hani Mukhtar scored twice last night.
Oh.
He's on 16 goals. So the guys that are right behind him also added to their total this week. So it was good to see Seba get to, add to his.
Absolutely.
With the PK. And I was a little bit nervous, to be honest, because of the ankle injury, to see, like, is he going to be able to convert this? And it was a masterful PK. I thought it didn't tip anything. Goalie dove left.
Yeah.
Buried it to the goalie's right. 1-1 going into the half. And then, we jump out. There was kind of right off the rip in the second half, Minnesota got a nice chance. But then it was the 62nd minute where I believe Ruben plays it back to Stuver to Julio. And like you said, Franco Fragapane sprinting at him. And what I think was tough there was that it looked like Lima to the right and Ruben back to the left were pretty well marked there by Minnesota. And Julio takes a touch to his left, which, to his credit, and we can get into a longer discussion about Julio here in a second. To his credit, I think he's been pretty deft with his feet this year for being such a big guy, for being such an inexperienced, like Julio Cascante is still a fairly inexperienced player in my eyes. We got to remember, this guy was on Portland Timbers 2 before we got him.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. Like Julio is not some top tier center back.
I've definitely been a fan of him.
I know you're a bigger fan of him than me, at least from just what he does for the club. I've been critical of him since last year, and he's certainly proven me wrong. We, like I said, get into more of that later. But Fragapane picks his pocket, chips it right over Stuver. I mean, skillful goal
for sure. It's a split-second decision because you're right. The clear passes to him are marked. And then it just becomes a risk-reward situation. And I don't see how the reward of getting that ball to wherever he was going with it at that point outweighs the risk of him trying to take, he's trying to split two guys there. One dude's coming flying at him now. I mean, that's probably a whole different beast to deal with in real time, for sure. But just painful, but a great strike with that chip to get it behind Stuver there. And then it just really looked like we were in the mud.
Well, we were in the mud before that because I'll throw it back to you here. You kind of led the charge in the room that we were in, like 55th, 56th minute.
Yeah.
And saying these guys are dead. And it was both sides, really. Both teams looked dog tired.
True.
But I think both of us, by the 60th, right before this happened, were like, we need to get subs in. And it didn't seem like they were ready.
No, we were not ready. And then I would assume that the game plan we had was then tossed after that goal. Right. And we see some interesting subs after that, right? We see some interesting movement that I don't see. I don't know. Well,
let's go through the subs, and I want to get your reaction on those because, like you said, we did see some interesting subs, particularly in the 76th minute, but 67th minute, a trio of subs here. Danny Hosen for Maxi Urruti, so we were both happy about that, even though a little bit late, I think. Again, both
it was
of us,
definitely late. This was the latest it should have been because Maxi was gassed out. He was definitely gassed. And that argument there is gaining a lot of steam and traction
Mm-hmm.
The Hosen. Is it Hosen? Is it Husen?
Dude, to be honest, I've been saying Hosen. I want to say Adrian Healy was saying Husen.
He's definitely saying that, and I don't know
Yeah.
if that's just a lost in kind of translation thing.
I think Adrian Healy is probably right, and we're
I
wrong.
that would probably check out.
Yeah. So apologies to Danny.
Yes.
But yeah, so he comes on. Lobito.
And it was also not great.
Who? Danny?
Yeah.
I agree. And I don't think he's made an impact on a game for a while, at least the last two. I think he's been relatively invisible. SKC at home, and then this game, I don't really remember him making an impact on me where it was like, oh, and Danny did this, and that helped us, equalize or come back, whatever. Like he's been a little quiet.
Limited.
Sure. But then the third sub here, everybody. Rodney Redis comes on for Ethan Finley.
The weapon.
And so let's go ahead and talk about Rodney Redis.
I don't like to do this.
What's that?
I don't like to do this.
I know. And
but I just can't, I don't want to pile on the guy.
I agree.
But all right, come on. He did put one of the most interesting displays, if you want to call it footy, if you want to call it soccer, whatever. He hit the Mamba a few times there. It was bad. It looked bad. He looks disengaged from the team as well, which I think is even more concerning.
Sure.
But hopefully the ship has sailed, whatever it may be, with the news of who showed up recently.
Sure. I mean, I'll say this. Both of us, I think, at various levels of basketball have probably felt something like Rodney Redis has felt this season, especially, right?
For sure.
Nobody, I can guarantee you, there is nobody in the MLS or any professional sports league that is going out there and trying to be bad and trying to not contribute on the stat sheet. And he's just done nothing for so long, nothing of substance, right? That we can say, oh, but remember when Rodney scored this goal? Like he scored in a friendly. And like that shot was not like it was outside the box from distance, but like, it doesn't count.
I mean, it's probably the same situation as Stroud, right? Happy for him to get a new chance somewhere, wherever it may be.
Fuck, man, Stroud, but he contributed last
for sure. But like, how can you salvage this situation in any way? And I mean, he as much as guys need to stay away from, all kinds of talk. He definitely hears it. He knows,
of course.
So
well, dude, that's part of being in the public eye, especially on a popular team.
Comes with territory, for sure. We're the only. This is the show in Austin. This is the show. So, it was bad. I don't know how else to say it, and he's been bad, and there has not been any sort of fruit for us from his pick, signing, just rough.
Yeah, at this point, I just feel like it's again, I don't think either of us have anything against Rodney personally. I don't know if I've ever heard him talk.
No, I did.
And it seems like all of his teammates like him. The coaches really don't have anything bad to say about him either. So I can only imagine that he's a really high character guy, good in the locker room, works his butt off in training, but it just doesn't translate to the field. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, this is what we're talking about, right? Like we're talking about production on the field. And I think it's completely fair for the fans to not just after this game, after that display, to be extremely frustrated. And the fan base has been frustrated with him. So it's nothing new. Again, because I talked about on episode 1, I'm very much more the Twitter guy, Twitter presence compared to you. I am trying to get you on Twitter, get you an account so you can interact a little bit.
My self-imposed ban, I think, I'll have to check my calendar.
It's like I got to put parental controls on your account or something.
Be able to find when my self-imposed ban ends.
But so I two things on Twitter that I wanted to get your thoughts on here. First, Chris Bills, for the striker, fantastic journalist. One of the best in the Austin FC realm here. Tweeted, he said, "Good Lord, y'all, imagine dumping on your 22-year-old coworker who keeps getting shoveled work they're not qualified for and not going to management for help. Redis is a symptom of how much this Austin FC roster still needs to grow." What do you think about that?
That's pretty scathing.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's wrong. It is what it is. I don't think Rodney would be on board with, oh yeah, this is how I expected it to go. This is how I wanted it to go. So fresh starts all around is what I'm looking for. He doesn't contribute to us in a positive way, and that just really sucks.
Well, and I think thinking about or talking about him finding a new home, he's become like, okay, so this is where I think we as a group went a little bit too far on social media. There was a thing, hashtag Redis challenge. I know you're not. Yeah.
Okay.
I know you're not familiar with it, but I think you can imagine what it is essentially people posting videos of either their kids or themselves, like doing what he did in the, like putting a ball there, like juking around and like falling down.
No.
Yeah. See, that's where like, I'm not going to participate in that. But I'm very much looking forward to Rodney Redis never having to be that option again. Because like it's gone so far now where people are doing the Redis challenge where like now he's a meme. And
exactly.
Like,
and I was going to
it's not going to be 1 or 2 goals that fixes that.
I was going to say that because you made the point where you said, obviously the anger has been with the fan base for a long time. And I was going to say that it has now transformed itself into comedy because you just can't. I'm also trying to suppress the anger with, let's just move on. Let's just get it over with. And then, other people might be using some comedic relief. And yeah, it has gone past this pick hasn't worked out and we're really upset about it.
Right.
So yeah, I don't want to dwell on it too much. I don't know if you have anything more to contribute to that.
Not really on that. Again, I think we can touch on it when we get to kind of the middle of the pod here. We'll talk about our new arrival in a second. Finishing up this game, though, 9 minutes later, 76th minute. This is where the adjustment happens.
Yes.
Where we bring Kolmanic in for Fagundes, pushing John Gallagher for the first time this season, I believe, up to that left wing position where he played a lot last year.
Mr. Utility.
Yeah, I mean, we called him our utility man on the last pod.
Get it done, Johnny G.
Yeah, and whatever is asked of this man, he does to the best of his ability, and that's why I hope we continue to keep him around as long as he's willing. Just because, no matter if he's starting, I honestly hope that we bring in better fullbacks next year, where he is coming off the bench and bringing that juice and that speed.
Touching back on the Chris Bills tweet. It can be a testament to Johnny and his versatility and his utility for the roster, while also being an indictment on the roster, where it's like we already got this man out of position, and now we're asking him to go, far beyond. But yeah, no, I shout out to Johnny G for sure, and we'll get back into those subs there.
Yeah, so Kolmanic doesn't waste any time getting in the box score. I thought it was a good foul.
I thought it was a good foul too.
Minnesota coming on the break, right side, just past midfield. Kolmanic trailing the play, pulls down. I forget who he pulled down, but it was a very clear yellow. I think if I was a Minnesota fan, there could be an argument for a red, but I think it was maybe Owen Wolf tracking back in the middle of the field. Somebody was there, and I thought it really wasn't a last man situation, but it was close. It was close.
What if you were a drunk Austin FC fan at the queue and that happened?
You say a lot worse things than I just said there. Last sub in the 86, Johnny G, after putting in a fantastic shift. I believe he was the second highest rated player on FOTMob there with a 7.0 rating. Comes out for Felipe in the 86th. And to be honest, man, I really never want to see Felipe when we're down.
Again, roster indictment.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, and speaking of the roster, as we close out this game, we had Johan Valencia in the team on the bench for the first time since his meniscus injury a few months back. Obviously, he didn't get on the field. I would love to see down the stretch here him getting in over Felipe there, right? Like,
yes,
maybe it's got to be him for Ring, because we've been playing Ring further back now, really at the 6, since, we tried that experiment. Wolf tried that experiment the first 2.5 months of the season, and didn't really bear fruit. We've seen Alex Ring kind of be really shaky in the offensive half in terms of his shot selection, his finishing, right? Sure. Even the goals that he scored this year have been he's almost like oopsies, right? So I hope we see Valencia getting into the team, getting onto the field some more over these last 8 games. We also saw Hector Jimenez not in the team, but did train in full last week. So maybe we see him and a much needed reinforcement there.
Much needed.
With the fullback. So hopefully he's on his way back. Last thing on this game. It's wild to think about, but this is our first road loss since May 29th.
Wow.
Yeah. So, again, that's where, stepping back from this game, we talked about how we like to try to have perspective, at least the morning after a match. Mm-hmm. And I think that's some good perspective for this week is if you, especially because that last road loss before this one was the 4-1 against the Galaxy. Oh. If you would have told any of us, anybody in the MLS universe, that Austin FC would go to Montreal, Charlotte, Colorado in the Elevation, Atlanta in Mercedes-Benz, right? Dallas for the Copa Tejas finale, and then to SKC, and not take an L over that stretch, people would have called you crazy. So again, I think it's some good perspective to have. It's okay to lose to a good Minnesota team on the road.
Okay, so you're good loss then.
Yeah, sure, system loss, and it happens.
Okay.
More times than not, the system has been winning. The system is picking up points.
Facts.
But let's get back to the roster here. Of course, everybody saw this morning on Monday, recording Monday night here on the 22nd. Emiliano Rigoni finally touches down in the ATX. Big group to greet him at the Fairmont Hotel on Sunday morning.
That was beautiful.
Did you see his opening statement? He kind of turned around on the megaphone and gave a little statement?
I did not.
So essentially, he turns around on the megaphone. He says, "We're going to win playoffs. We're going to do big things. I'm happy." Well, and so we're going to win playoffs. And especially if you watch the press conference today, the translator was not doing us any favors. You and I, Gringo Supreme, we are, almost see-through white.
It's dangerous for us to be outside in Texas.
Yeah. Rigoni gives this long answer, or clearly is telling some sort of anecdote, some sort of little story to whatever question was asked of him. Okay. And the translator very clearly shortened it down. And then in the YouTube live chat, you could see that the Spanish speakers were saying, the translator just gypped you guys out of a little tale. So I don't know if we're going to win playoffs is the best translation of what he said. But I think, he's saying all the right things, right?
Yeah.
He knows what the mission is here at this point of the season, what he's being brought in to do this year. And so that's, I don't know what you would expect from a professional athlete, in a situation like that, but he certainly checked all the stereotypical boxes.
Absolutely.
So makes that statement at the hotel on Sunday. Today, teams in training, Monday, even on a single game week, your normal week where you have the full week of practice on Monday, I don't think is, your full practice day. But he was out there, wearing 77, right? Which apparently is what he wore in Sao Paulo.
Yes.
But I think wants to wear the 10. They said that the 10 wasn't available. Obviously, Cecilio was wearing that earlier this season. I think I saw some speculation that because the number was used for the club this year that he couldn't wear it. But then I saw somebody else counter that and say Gareth Bale is wearing a number for LAFC that was already worn earlier this season. So I don't – and even so, I don't know why.
We're going to have to call the office.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense to me that if somebody who's no longer with the club wore a number this year that you can't wear it.
We got to find out this 70. I mean, Luka Doncic, and we'll cross over here.
Yeah, true.
77. What is the significance? Obviously, we know the significance of 10. Sure. 10 is the 23 basketball.
Right.
That is what it is.
Right.
So what is the 77?
I don't know. Well, it's
deeper. Let's get our FC Frisco fans in here. If they have any comment.
There's no geographical connection there because Argentinian, Slovenian, Doncic and Rigoni. So maybe it's just 7's lucky number. I don't know.
A lot of people do like 7 was a hot number.
Rigoni did say, but again, it was translated, so who the fuck knows what he actually said? I'll stop giving this guy guff. He did say when he first got to Sao Paulo, he had a good season wearing 77, so I think he wanted to continue that here. And if you and I not completely unsuperstitious guys, I think so. I'm all for it. We'll see if the double 7s helps him out.
He knows better than me, so let him rock it. I think it's going to look cool out there, to be honest.
I was glad that you noticed this as well. And Jorge, and God, I'm going to butcher his last name, Iturralde, fantastic Spanish language journalist, actually bilingual journalist. Again, Ian, I'm throwing all these Austin FC media pundits at you that I know you're not familiar with, but we'll get there.
Rolodex or my black book.
Once we get you on Twitter, Jorge is a must follow. He is he's very active. I very much enjoy watching him interact, not just with Austin FC fans, but Houston Dynamo fans, Dallas fans, etc. He's a great personality in the space. He brought it up too. I had it in my notes, and you said it to me right before we started. Wolf looked absolutely giddy,
bro.
Did he put a suit jacket on for this?
Facts. He looked crisp. He wore the Barack Obama tan. So then he brought it out, and dude, he's bouncing around, and I'm just looking at him. I was like, man, show your teeth, smile a little bit, and he just, you could tell, and he kept saying, a player of this caliber. I, for one, am not afraid to smile quite large for this. I cannot wait to watch it. You touched earlier on, us having this wet dream of Reynoso and Drancy there. Now, you know what? Let's let it run with these two guys. Was fortunate enough to be able to squeeze in some time to watch some Rigoni highlights today. And just incredibly excited. Doesn't look like he's gonna, run past you by any means, but he knows how to use his body. He's creative. It looks like he wants to beat you one-on-one and give you a little something. So I'm excited for that. I thought the turnout from the Austin FC fans was fantastic.
As it always is.
Absolutely.
That. So credit to the, the hardcore fans, and we consider ourselves hardcore fans, but you and I have never been out to welcome a player. So maybe we need to get that, checked off the list at some point, maybe this off season.
Okay.
So we talked about it last week. Has your thoughts on this change? When do we see number 77 on the field?
That is the burning question, huh?
Wolf didn't rule. He did not rule out Friday.
I mean, give it to me.
Yeah.
You know, give it to us.
Yeah.
You know, we sludged through some games last year. These are the guys that we are chasing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll touch on them and all the things that they've done. We will.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to see it. I don't know if we will. I can't figure it out. I mean, I don't know how he feels about bringing these guys on so quickly. I know from his presser, he was pretty adamant about like making sure he was set up here in the city, you know, and his family was with him. And
right.
This is my first like real experience with a professional sports team where it's like we are bringing people from all over the world, and
right.
you know, throughout the season,
middle of the season, coming from halfway across the world.
Yeah, of course. So hopefully, I want him versus LAFC for sure. I want to see it. I want to see our best team out there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see a real push for it. I don't think it, and that's interesting because I don't think it matters in the standings at all. I don't know if we can catch them. I don't think.
And now we're 3 points behind Philly, who is in the weaker conference and fucking steamrolling teams. They lost a midweek game 1-0 to Dallas in Frisco, and then 6-0 over DC United on Saturday. Which I think they 7-0'd. I think they put up 2 touchdowns on DC United this year. I think it was 13-0. I think. Across
Wayne.
the 2 matchups. Yeah. Wayne's got some work to do in the capital. So yeah, I mean, and I think you and I were talking about this after the loss on Saturday. I think the goal is solidify the 2 seed, right? Because not only do you get to host potentially 2 home playoff games, then you got to win the first, of course. But this is another thing we didn't talk about, but is very relevant to next season. I think when we have this deeper roster, you get if you finish second, you're guaranteed a bye in the U.S. Open Cup. So we would come in the round of 32 instead of the round of 64 like we did this year. So that's something, it's if we're not going to get the Shield, we're not going to win the conference, then I think that's an extra. It's a nice little cookie for us.
I did check up on San Antonio FC today.
They're good, man.
Enough because I don't know what, I had some flashback to the confrontation with the San Antonio fans we had in the parking lot, and I wanted to somehow
confrontation you had.
I wanted to somehow be vindicated, and but yeah, they're in first, doing great. So that didn't work out. I
think I told those guys, "Hey, you guys are good game." I think you said some other things to them.
I added a little relish. There was a little relish on that dog.
Okay, so you said you would like to see Rigoni this Friday. Of course, I think all of us would. But when do you think we do? Like, when do you think we see him? Portland is Wednesday, and then I believe we are at Nashville. I believe on Labor Day weekend.
I don't know if I have a great answer for when we see him. I do have a great answer for if we don't see him by Nashville, then some sort of riot. Some sort of scale. I don't know the scale of it all, but there has to be something has to happen. Shoot, I like is such a underwhelming word for how elated I would be to see him versus LAFC. So let's split the difference between elation and complete riot. So let's say Portland. All right.
Okay.
I'll temper my expectations. I've been let down enough today.
A home debut, right? I think that's what we want to see. I don't want to just roll him out there and have to watch him on TV for the first time. And I'll say this. I think obviously we all want him to be in the team on Friday. I'm throwing it out there. I know a lot of, and this doesn't make sense. It does not line up with, I think, historically over these last 2 years, what Wolf does with new acquisitions. But I may be mistaken on this. I should do more research, but I vaguely remember that Sebastian Driussi, when he came in last year, got on the field as a sub, but got on the field very quickly. And I don't know if it was, 5 days after he landed. I don't think it was that quick, but this is different. This is not Washington Caruso. This is not any of the other, this is not Musa Jite. This is a DP signing. And I think all of us expect, at worst, talent-wise, that he is a Cecilio Dominguez type player, talent-wise, right? But I think we expect him to be more than that.
I absolutely expect him to be more than that.
And I think it's silly to say that somebody like this is getting back to the Rodney thing. And again, this is not against Rodney the person, but it's what's best for the team. Are we really benefiting from another 15 to 20 minutes of Rodney Redis at the end of this game, whether we're winning or losing? Or is it better to let Rigoni, if he is ready to play, right? If he says, I want to play, coach, isn't it better to get him out there for 15 to 20 minutes, even if he doesn't have a ton of experience in the system and this and that? He's a soccer player and a very good one.
For sure. Get him out there. Let him do it. Man, I wish Manchita was on the bench for this game, because if Wolf had gone Redis in that situation, we riot on some sort of scale.
Well, and it's something we didn't touch on. I don't think we said that Manchita was out on Saturday, had a hip injury, was listed as questionable, which both of us missed. So when we saw the lineup come out and he wasn't in the team, we were like, well, and we went back and found that he was listed questionable for the game. So hopefully he's back again, because if he's not back and Rigoni's not ready, we're going to see Rodney again. And Rodney against LAFC doesn't make my socks roll up and down. I'll say that.
I've never heard you say that in my
well, you're going to hear me say a lot of things on this podcast.
Good buddy.
All right, let's jump into the LAFC preview here. Last season, again, we played a lot of teams with that COVID schedule. We played a lot of teams 3 times. Solid 0-3 against LAFC last year. Of course, the first ever Austin FC match against LAFC out there at the bank. 2-0 loss out there. But I mean, Ben Sweat was starting at left back for us that game. That's how far, Yeah.
Who he played for?
Yeah. I think Rodney Redis started for us that game, right? Cecilio was at the striker. It's amazing that was only 15, 16 months ago.
Such a short time.
Played him twice at home after that. Another 2-0 loss. And then a 2-1 loss.
Hard fought. Good game.
Yeah, that third match was really fun. I distinctly remember coming out of that, because there was only a few times last year where we came out of. There were a lot of times we came out of Q2 with a loss. There was very few times we came out of there with no points and saying that was solid. Like, I don't feel bad about losing to LAFC like we did there. What we feel great about was back on May 19th. The 2-1 road win this season at the bank over LAFC. Goals from Ruben Gabrielson, right? Doing the Odin celebration there at the bank. Diego Fagundes off that Rabona assist from Driussi. Just,
oh my gosh.
Talk about your socks rolling up and down.
I talk about that all the time.
Just the 8th home loss in LAFC history. And of course, that history is not that long. Since 2018, I believe they've been in existence, but that's 4.5 seasons, right? Because COVID shortened season, but only 8 losses, and their only loss at home this season still. So just to
wow, it's the only home loss this season.
Yeah, just to put the exclamation point on how big that win was. And I will say, that was a road game. I was watching it at my place. We actually didn't watch that game together. I was with Guillermo and Jose for that one. My nerves at the end of that game, my nerves have never been that high for an Austin FC match. I was almost visibly shaking with adrenaline because Vela got a PK. 83rd or something. So that last 10 minutes was torture.
He's also awesome to watch. Really enjoy watching him.
Oh, dude, I mean, this whole kid, like,
I can't wait to see it.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into the positives about that team.
Well, they just
personally,
they had a shaky week.
They did. They did.
First of all, double game week for them, so catching up to Austin FC in terms of games played. We're now level 26 games apiece. The midweek game, which I guess that kicked off when we were recording our first episode last week, and that game was 0-0 going to the half. LAFC squeaks out a 1-0 home win over DC United. Then on the weekend, 2-1 road loss to the San Jose Earthquakes. And I think the worst, that may have been the worst thing about the Minnesota loss, is that was our chance to get back in it. Right? Even if you pull off a point, like, then you're I think we would have been 7 or 8 points back then. But like, we had to get something if LAFC is going to drop points to that team, right? Because then obviously it's a 6-pointer here this Friday, and then if we could have won that, then maybe now we're talking. We have wisps of, hey, we can do this.
Wisps.
Yeah, wisps. But now there's
no wisps.
I mean, they have to lose 3 more games, and I would have to, I guess, like, almost win out, right? Like, with 8 games to go, it's just, if you are still holding on to hopes of a Supporter Shield victory this year, this is a must-win game. And we'll get to predictions here in a second. I don't know if we're predicting wins this week. We'll see if we can break. I don't know if you're going to have like a highly questionable, a Poppy C or no type of deal where, like, he's always saying C, right? You remember that show? He always said C. He always wants to watch what's on TV. C. Ian always wants to predict a win for Austin FC. That loss, go ahead.
C, I will not break from that.
That loss against San Jose snapped a 7-game win streak for LAFC. But despite the loss, clinched the first playoff spot in the MLS this season. So 1 down, 6 to go out west. It took them just 25 games to do so, which ties their own MLS record from 2019, 25 games to clinch a playoff spot.
Wow.
So I'll ask you, same thing I did last week. I think this will be a theme when we preview lineup changes. Do you think any happen? Do you want to see some, and then do you think any happen?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see. I still don't understand how we could not benefit from Rigoni being on the field as much as possible.
Right from the start?
Yeah, I just don't see. I don't see how it's a bad thing for us there. I don't know.
I think this is where we show our naivete about soccer, right? Because I think with hoops, you get a new guy, he's out there on the court.
Yeah, he's playing.
You play him. And I think it's from the people that I think know soccer better, a lot better than we do in this Austin FC community. It just doesn't seem like that's what they do.
I agree. And I would like to see it. I don't think it happens. Mm-hmm. If he hits the field versus LAFC, I'm chugging my beer. I'm having a good time.
I agree.
I don't know. A lot of guys have been underperforming. But again, with the roster, where do you go? You know, I'm not calling for Danny Houston to start. Mm-hmm. I'm calling for a more comparable time split with Maxi. Mm-hmm. I don't know where we switch there and make any sort of improvement that's going to like impact that game. Do you have anything that you see that? I mean, I want to see Johan again. Like I want to see him at some point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly, I certainly don't think there's really a case for either Johan right now to really start. I guess we can get into this. Kip Keller right? And I think we'll talk more about him on another podcast, but I think it would really benefit the team, not just down the stretch, but going forward next season, the season after next, to get this young guy some minutes. And if we had our next pro team, he would be playing a ton. But it's just, I'll save it for the next podcast because I know we're going to discuss some other things, not just game recaps and previews. And when is Rigoni playing? We'll get into some other kind of maybe, some lists, some power rankings, some drafts, things that we like to do when we're just hanging around and bullshitting. I think, like we discussed last week, I wouldn't hate, if in training, it's first of all, if he's healthy, and if in training, if he's looking good, I wouldn't hate to see Caruso out there for Finley. I think Finley, like Maxi or Rudy, both veterans of this league, well respected, and have done a fantastic job for us this season compared to what we expected coming in. But just like with Maxi, we saw him hot to start the season, and he hasn't done much lately on the offensive end, at least. Finley, I think he's gotten a lot. There's been a roller coaster of emotion around his performances this year. But it's very hard to look at the full body of work from Ethan Finley this season. I believe 5 goals, 6 assists. I may have that backwards.
Extremely hard to not be anything but pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. He was brought in to be a backup. He's got backup Cecilio.
Yes. He has exceeded my expectations. Absolutely.
And so I think once Rigoni is in the 11, right, then I think maybe that's when we get full Finley back, right? Full juice Finley, coming off the bench 25, 30 minutes when we call his name, and can really do some damage in that role, the role that he was supposed to be in this season.
Yes.
So I think if we want to make, if we can run Manchita out there for 55, 60 minutes, if he's right, like that's maybe something that I could see happening. But we've been kind of with this 11 for a month now, I think. But with the double game week coming here, right? We got LAFC Friday, Portland Wednesday, Nashville Saturday. There's Nashville Sunday. I'll have to look that up. But 3 games in, a 9-day span or whatever it is. Yeah. We're going to see some rotation.
You're going to see something for sure.
Very shortly. So I think if I had to, put money on it, if I was a gambling man, and I am,
which you are,
I would say
Luxembourg DFS.
I would say same 11 here on Friday, right? With this juggernaut of a team coming in. Yeah. Although they will be missing Ilie Sanchez.
Indeed, they will.
A red card. All-star. Very important. Like to me, I may be getting this wrong. So if somebody who has more knowledge than me thinks differently, please let me know. I don't think he doesn't wear the armband for them, but he reminds me very much of what I've seen of him, of like their Alex Ring.
I was gonna say glue guy.
Yeah. He holds it together,
patches it up. Duct tape here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just kind of an above average player in almost all categories, is how he strikes me.
Agreed.
So them not, them not having him is a nice little bonus for us, but these bastards are 2-3 deep at almost every position, it seems. So I don't think it changes how I feel about this game. So we can go ahead and get into our predictions.
Absolutely loaded. I'm just going to peep their roster again for a little.
Sure. Yeah. I think I had a 2-2 draw on the road last week against the Loons. And at home here, I think I'm going to do the same. I think it's a 2-2 draw here. Again, like I said last week, I think the only Austin FC prediction I will raise my eyebrows at is a 0 on the Austin FC scoreboard. Yeah. They just don't get shut out very much. So I do expect to get past Craig Poe back there again multiple times. But, man, they've been resting Bale I believe Chiellini has also been out for rest, load management, whatever they want to call it. They're breaking into our side of the sports world now with this load management here in the MLS. But I want to see, like, just from a fan perspective, because who knows if we'll ever get to see him again. I want to see Bale start.
Oh, yes.
I want to go up against the best.
Well, here they are. I definitely want to see Gareth.
I like how you're on a first name basis with him.
Yeah. Back from the pubs. No, I'm super excited for the game. I don't know how much they actually respect us. I don't know if they're any way pressed about this game. The lead is very solid.
You don't think they're hyped? Like they want to come in and beat us up here after we beat? I mean, only home loss of the year for them. And we let them know, like, what, not just the team was, I think, a little loud about it. Man, we were like, I don't know. Like we are a very boisterous fan base on social media, but after that game, I think that was the night when Andrew Wiebe,
that was the loudest we've been.
Extra Time podcast, Ian, you'll become familiar with it. It's kind of the official like MLS podcast that they have. Andrew Wiebe, kind of a little bit of a villain, especially at the beginning of the year, was kind of poo-pooing our start. I think I've said bonus games around you before. So Wiebe came into the We Are Austin Twitter space that night to give us our props. Yeah, and I don't know.
Good on him.
Well, I don't know how much everybody else felt, but I was kind of like, yo, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, yeah, I know it's like, I know he's a personality, and I think he's a good dude, but it's like, don't come around like you've been giving us shit, and it's fun, like it's a fun banter, but like, yo, let us celebrate this. We just beat LAFC. At the time I thought was the biggest win we've ever had. We were in first at that point. It was 8-9 games into the year. So obviously still very early, but yeah, I guess my feeling at that point was like, come on, man, like let us enjoy this like another time. Anyways, that's your score prediction.
You went 2-2.
2-2, yeah. Second week in a row. I don't feel good about it, but like I have a hard time like with the form that we've had. We've beat SKC, who SKC is I think. We talked about them being a potential trap game against us with those summer signings. Yeah. They've struggled with injuries all year with Polito, et cetera. But they went 4-1 against Portland last night. So like we haven't, I don't think they're as bad as their record is. But again, we leaked 3 goals to them, gave up 4 to Red Bulls at home, obviously 3 to San Jose. To predict anything less than 2 LAFC goals, I think is just a little sure. Yeah, I've silly, wrong, like a bad prediction. I don't know. So yeah, it's 2-2 for me, and hopefully I can finally predict a win next Wednesday. We'll see.
I'm going to go 3-2.
Okay.
Late Rigoni goal. You're right. You're right for the majority of the game, but then I swoop in with more rightness.
Hey, well, as long as so we're bringing our buddies. We're bringing Guillermo and Jose. Bringing our buddy Wacker AG. So as long as we can throw it in Guillermo's face, I'll be happy. But man, if you're calling for a Rigoni winner off the bench, are you trying to? Q2 might explode.
No, we'll all be there then.
We'll all explode together.
Here we go.
All right, well, let's, we're a little over an hour here. Touch on a couple other MLS things. I talked about Philadelphia continuing to roll. These guys, 6-0 over DC, 6-0 over Houston, 7-0 over DC. That team takes care of business, man. I said it last week.
Is Bon Jovi still involved with them?
That's a good question. I don't know. Wait. Was he involved with the Union or I thought he was arena football?
Philly Soul? I thought he did both.
The Philly Soul is arena football. We know he's
Yeah, no. I thought he did both though, right? No.
I don't know.
It's not like
we're.
He's not going to live forever.
You're right. I had down here SKC heating up with a question mark. I think they certainly are, even though they lost to us 4-3. Like,
I agree.
They were dangerous.
They would, if there's two guys talking about that team, they would chip that up to a pretty bad loss there to take that 4-3 L.
Yep. And then, of course, LAFC, the shaky week. Dallas, huge win at home against Philly, and then getting absolutely shellacked by Nashville last night, 4-0.
Nashville back to form there.
Yeah. Yeah, we see them twice in September.
Yeah, they linger.
I mean, dude, we're going to see, we just saw Reynoso Driussi. Yeah. We're going to see Driussi Mukhtar matchup. Mukhtar second in the Golden Boot race. Yeah. So that's going to be a fun one. So yeah, I think that's about it, my friend.
My good friend.
My good buddy. If you have made it this far with us again, we very much appreciate you tuning in, having fun with us. We will be back next week. Again, a double game week. I think we're going to try to sneak 2 pods in next week.
Pay me a little more. That's overtime for me.
But I do know that we will have our first guest next week. No spoilers, but it should be a fun one. Again, something we want to continue to do throughout this project as we roll on towards the playoffs. 8 games to go. I didn't say this last time, and I think it's I think you don't have an official podcast till you say it at the end. So if you enjoy, you want to support, you can rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, the YouTube channel at the North End Pod, on Twitter at the North End Pod.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, man, we're everywhere.
We're all over the sphere, baby.
The North End, spreading, or I should say, growing its limbs. Right.
Yes, indeed. I told my Auntie Em about it.
Yeah.
And she goes, you have to naturally work into the conversation somehow that Allison Felix has the most gold medals in the United States track and field history. And I told her that I couldn't do that seamlessly. Yeah. So shout out my Auntie Em.
And Allison Felix.
And Allison Felix for sure.
Hell of an athlete.
Wow. Look at us. We're covering everything under the sun here on the North End. Happy to be back. Happy to not sound like the love child of Tom Waits and Gollum.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you're back to normal now. No home game last weekend, so the voice is recovered.
I think I don't want to set any sort of standard because you never know what you're really going to get. And after Friday, when the next pod comes up, we'll see where I list on the injury report.
That might prevent the second pod because we got 2 home games back to back.
That's for real. I might need that translator that you bring him in.
I guess we'll play it by ear. Again, just want to thank everybody, if you're still with us, for tuning in. This has been episode 2 of the North End Podcast. For Zach, for Ian, appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, goodbye.